Anita Vandenbeld is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence and a Liberal member of the National Defence Committee. She's with us from Ottawa. Michael Barrett is the Conservatives' ethics critic. He's with us from Brockville, Ontario. And Randall Garrison is the NDP's National Defence critic and a member of the National Defence Committee. He joins us from Colwood, BC. Hello to all three of you. Thank you very much for making the time. I'll break with tradition if you don't mind. And instead of starting on this topic and with the government member, I just want to get some reaction from Mr. Barrett to what we heard a few minutes ago on this program from Guy Giorno. Mr. Barrett, you sit on the Ethics Committee. Mr. Giorno referenced some of the words and comments that you've made on that committee about the We Charity. The brothers will appear now because your committee decided to issue a summons, but Mr. Giorno says will not answer questions if they might also be the subject of an RCMP or CRA investigation. Your reaction to that?
Invited the Kielburgers to attend committee on December 1st of last year. And since then, our committee clerk and chair have been working very hard to get them up here. Last Wednesday, they said they would not attend and they would refuse to attend even if summons were issued for them. So this is a change. Now they've said that they're not sure which questions they're going to answer based on if there is an RCMP investigation happening. I guess I would just say that if their answers to us would be different than the answers they give the RCMP, that's a problem. And it is our expectation that they were to attend following the summons being issued. So the fact that they are doing it in this fashion instead of cooperating with the committee on invitation and us working with them over several months is disappointing. But ultimately, our expectation on them to come answer questions with respect to the Canada Student Service Grant, with respect to all of the other issues that have arisen since then, that's exactly what we're going to do this Friday.
Just quickly, Mr. Giorno's making the argument that the committee is putting them in a tough spot, essentially, by having them potentially investigated by the RCMP and certain allegations investigated and then quizzed by MPs on those allegations. Does he have a point there?
Look, the committee or committee members can't direct the RCMP. We can, like any Canadian, refer a matter to the RCMP. It's our understanding there is not currently an RCMP investigation happening, and if there is, that would be something for them or their legal counsel to let us know. But they have to answer questions. They accepted an agreement to administer $500 million taxpayer dollars. And then they refused an invitation to appear at a parliamentary committee. So the questions that we ask are our purview as parliamentarians, and they enjoy, in fact, a level of immunity while testifying as witnesses at a committee anyway. So like I said, provided they're prepared to give the same answers to us that they might give to anyone else later, then there shouldn't be any problems for Mark and Craig Kielburger when they testify.
Okay, I'll leave that subject there. And Ms. Vandenbeld, Mr. Garrison, thank you very much for indulging me. I'll circle back to the subject that we're all here to discuss, and that is what happened on the Defence Committee today. Ms. Vandenbeld, I'll start with you. Minister Sajjan, you, members of the government, have all insisted that he did nothing wrong in all of this. Yet you also agreed today to expand the investigation to look at the paper trail that took place around, for example, the 2018 period that's in reference to Minister Sajjan's actions. Have you presupposed the outcome? Like, are you jumping ahead of a conclusion that you don't know, that you're not aware of at this point? If you're okay with the committee doing that kind of work, why not wait until that committee's work is done before deciding that Minister Sajjan did nothing wrong?
Well, I think that as we see more and more coming out about this, what we're seeing is that at every step of the way, all the appropriate actions were taken. So in the case of General Vance, what you have is an informal complaint from someone who wanted to remain confidential. The minister nonetheless took that to senior officials, who then made it known that they wanted to start an investigation and tried to get the evidence, and without that evidence could not start an investigation, but continued. And you can see the minister's office looped back around to try to find a way to get that. In the second case, you have Admiral McDonald, where there was a telephone call made to the main switchboard. That went to senior officials, and then that resulted in an investigation by military police, by the NIS, the Provost Marshal. And as soon as Admiral McDonald became aware of that, he voluntarily stepped aside. So what we're seeing is that in each case, the appropriate actions were taken. The minister made sure that this wouldn't be politicized. And we have to remember that a minister's office is a political office, and we do not want to politicize these investigations. And we also need to respect the women. If the women do not want to have an actionable or move forward with a complaint, we need to respect that too. I have full confidence.
Isn't it, Ms. Vandenbeld, incumbent, though, on a government that knows there are concerns around an individual, even though the complainant does not want to come forward, to do all it can to ensure that that candidate is the right one? I mean, if you say to every complainant who doesn't want to come forward, who is afraid to come forward, that, oh, well, because you won't, we're not going to do anything about it, isn't that sending a hugely detrimental message to women in the military who are already apprehensive about doing so?
No, and that is the opposite. In fact, we have said repeatedly, we want women to come forward. We have put in place different things, including the SMRCs, including a number of different places that people can go. It's obviously not enough. We have to do more. What came out of this is that clearly there needs to be more done, because regardless of everything that we assure the survivors, people still are afraid. And that's where the committee should be looking. That is where our focus needs to be, because we have a chance to make some real recommendations. We had some very good testimony. We had Madame Deschamps come before our committee, and I would like to see what comes out of this, what we all want, which is to strengthen the ability for these women and sometimes men to come forward, to be heard, and then to see consequences. And that's exactly what the minister did. That is what he continues to do. And as more and more information comes out, I think we'll see that there was exactly the right actions taken.
Mr. Garrison, the insinuation from the government is that the potential actions that are going to be taken could re-victimize victims who didn't want to come forward. Can you provide those victims with assurances that this isn't just about politics?
Well, I think we need to back up a minute here on International Women's Day. And what's the goal? The goal for all of us is a Canadian forces where women can serve equally. And they can't do that in the Canadian forces where the culture tolerates sexual misconduct. So when you say you want to protect the victims, how can they feel protected when we've twice now had accusations against senior military commanders where the minister's conclusion that he didn't have a role, that he wasn't going to do anything? And so I'm very concerned at the very high level, after 6 years of the government saying it's tackling sexual misconduct in the military, that we haven't made more progress than this. And we have to know that at the highest level, the minister and the senior military leaders understand what sexual misconduct is, and that they're prepared to take effective action to stamp it out. And I think these examples prove that that's not the case at this point. And I want to hear from the minister about why he wouldn't even look at evidence that was presented to him.
Mr. Barrett, your party, I mean, the committee, I should say, also agreed to look at the paper trail or documents surrounding former CDS's Vance's, General Vance's appointment to CDS back in sort of that process between 2014 and 2015. Are you open to the possibility, because my colleague Murray Brewster has reported there was an investigation into some of his actions prior to that point, are you open to the possibility that the Conservatives, when they were in government, could also bear some responsibility for General Vance being appointed to that position? Have you not presupposed the outcome of that?
What we've seen, Vashi, is that the minister failed to take appropriate action in this case. And there's wild flailing and pointing of fingers to talk about anything else. This is a sexual assault that was sexual misconduct brought directly to the minister's attention, and he pushed away from the table, and he failed to take action. Referring it to PCO, they're not an investigative body, saying that they're responsible for the appointments. They report to the Prime Minister, okay? And the Prime Minister's office was informed. The Prime Minister did not take action. It appears to be one thing only, and that's a coordinated effort to make sure that this didn't come to light, a coordinated cover-up. So I'm quite sure that while Liberal members of the committee want to go digging around in previous years, we do know that after the minister had this sexual misconduct brought to his attention, he gave the chief of defense staff a raise and let him continue on in the position. And I would love to know, I look forward to hearing from the minister, if the then CDS was questioned. it just sounds like because it went to a non-investigative body that no action was taken, and the general got to continue on, and all of the women in the Canadian Forces knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah, Mr. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with your questions. I know that there are those valid questions for Minister Sajjan. However, that didn't answer my question to you, which is, are you open to the possibility that the former Conservative government bears some responsibility in appointing General Vance? I'm not saying that's a fact, but I'm asking, are you open to that possibility, since it will now be part of the investigation?
Well, they did appoint General Vance.
Yes,
yes,
but bear some responsibility, rather, for appointing General Vance when there were questions and concerns about his behavior.
Oh, well, so, certainly I think that we're going to need to look at what information came to light, what investigation was done. It's crystal clear that when allegations of sexual misconduct come forward, particularly against Canada's top soldier, that it is incumbent on those in power, specifically the minister, and specifically the Prime Minister, to make sure that we protect members serving in the Canadian Forces from misconduct, especially when it's perpetrated or allegedly perpetrated by the Chief of Defence Staff. So yes, we need to make sure that that the appointment process, the selection process, that the continuation of their term, that's all done with eyes on the appropriateness of their behavior. And there, of course, needs to be zero tolerance for sexual misconduct. But knowing that. That nothing had been done for the last 3 years, and then while the minister was informed 3 years ago, and then 2 weeks ago to say, this is news to me, it's disingenuous at best. But I think it's more likely evidence that this is a coordinated effort to make sure that the minister has clean hands.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I should note that the minister denies that. He said he disagrees with the testimony. So we're looking forward to his second testimony and then reconvening with all three of you. Thank you very much for making the time, Anita Vandenbeld, Michael Barrett, and Randall Garrison. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.